established rich coming right back at you. I need you to slow your mind down for a second. Don't scroll, don't react, just listen. Because something is happening again, and it happens every single time these documents drop. The internet sees a name and immediately decides it's a crime. No context, no process, no thinking. Just a name and a verdict. This time, the names are JayZ and PushaT. And if you've been on social media, you see the headlines already writing themselves. Epstein files, celebrity names, shocking connections. And people are running with it like this is a courtroom decision. But it's not. And that's what we got to talk about, because this ain't about defending nobody. This is about protecting the idea of the truth.
Tonight, the fallout continues as new details emerge from the millions of newly released Justice Department records on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Today, we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images.
Including this stunning, never-before-seen prosecution memo and draft indictment written nearly 2 decades ago. Prosecutors in Florida detailing the disturbing evidence they gathered against the financier, calling him a continued danger to the community based upon his continued enticement of underage girls. But that 60-count indictment never filed. Instead, Epstein landing the now infamous deal allowing him to plead guilty to lesser state prostitution charges, for which he served just 13 months in a Florida jail. Epstein survivor Charlene Rochard tonight telling me she is, quote, completely disappointed with the Justice Department.
I have absolutely no faith in this justice system at this point. The DOJ is not taking care in survivors at all. They're not considering us.
These Epstein files people keep sharing, these are not convictions. They are not findings. They are not evidence. They are raw investigative material. That means notes. That means tips. That means things people said that were never proven. A tip is not evidence. A claim is not proof. A mention is not an accusation. But on the internet, all 3 of those things mean the same thing. And that's dangerous. JayZ's name shows up in a claim involving Harvey Weinstein from the 1990s. A claim that was never proven, never litigated, never backed by evidence, but nobody is sharing that part. They just sharing the name. Pusha T's name appears in a different claim from years later. No charges, no case, no proof. But again, the name is enough. We live in a time where being mentioned is the same as being convicted. Social media don't care about due process. It cares about going viral. Headlines don't care about clarity. They care about clicks. And people don't read details. They read the caption. Once your name is tied to something like this, it's never untied. Your kids see it, your family sees it, your legacy feels it. All because somebody said something that was never proven. That's why this story matters. Not because of who is in the files, but because of how people are reacting to it. We have forgotten how investigations work. Law enforcement collects thousands of pieces of information. Most of it goes nowhere. That doesn't mean it was true. It means it was logged. But when that raw data hits the internet, people treat it like it's the final verdict. And the media ain't helping. They know exactly what they're doing when they write those headlines. They know you're not going to read the footnotes. They know you're just going to react to the names. And by the time the truth catches up, the damage is already done. This is how reputations get destroyed without a single charge. This is how a narrative starts that never goes away. And this is why I'm talking about it. Because I can already see the videos coming. I already see the blogs talking. JayZ, Epstein files, Pusha T exposed. And none of it is based on fact. Just association, just mention, just outrage. And we got to be smarter than that. Because if we don't protect the idea of evidence, proof, and due process, then nobody is safe from the internet. Not rappers, not actors, not you. This ain't about celebrities. This is about how easy it is for a name to get tied to a story that was never even true. Now let's talk about what these files actually are, because a lot of people are reacting without even knowing that part. The term Epstein files is not a legal term. That's an internet term. It sounds official. It sounds final, but it ain't. What people are looking at is a massive release of investigative material. Not findings, not conclusions, not courtroom proof, just records, emails, interview notes, tips when people called in, third-party statements, internal memos, things that were logged, not proven. This is what law enforcement does. They collect everything and then sort out what matters. But when the public gets that raw collection, they don't sort it. They assume somebody's name appears, that must mean they did something. No, it means somebody said something and an officer wrote it down. That's it. That's the part nobody is explaining. A tip is not evidence, and the allegation is not proof. And that's how misinformation starts. Now let's apply that to JayZ. His name is involved in a claim involving Harvey Weinstein when he was just starting his career. No proof, no case, no corroboration. But his name is in a note. That note becomes a headline, and that headline becomes a viral post. And the viral post becomes fact in many people's minds. Same thing with Pusha T, claimed from years later, unproven, unlitigated. But his name is in there, and that's enough for the internet. Do you see a pattern? This is not about what happened. This is about what was written down. And there's a very big difference. Investigators write down everything, even things they don't believe, because their job is to record information, not to decide the truth in the moment. But the public don't understand that. They think if it's in a federal document, it must be real. And it's not. It just must be recorded. That's not the same thing. This is why lawyers don't talk when things like this drop, because responding gives legitimacy to something that was never legit. Silence isn't admission, it's a strategy. But the internet reads silence as guilt. And that's how a man's name gets dragged into something he was never involved in. The media know that. They know most people won't read 300 pages of documents. They'll read a caption. So they'll write the caption to maximize the reaction. Rapper named in Epstein files. They won't say unproven claim logged by investigators. That don't go viral. This is where reputations get damaged. Not in court, not by evidence, but by headlines. And once that headline is out there, it never comes back. Years from now, somebody will Google JayZ and this will pop up. Without context, without clarity, just a name and a scandal. That's how permanent damage happens. And that's why this matters, because it's bigger than just two men. This is about how information works now. Raw data gets released, social media speculates, blogs repeat it, search engines amplify it, and before you know it, the story is no longer about facts. It's about association. And association is the most dangerous thing in the digital age, because you don't have to prove anything. You just have to be mentioned. And that's what we're seeing right now. And here's the part that really makes me think this whole thing is shady. Some names in those documents were blurred out, redacted, hidden, deemed too sensitive or too important to print. But JayZ's name was left clear as day, and that immediately raises a question. Who decides who gets protected and who gets exposed? Because if this is just a raw data release, why is there selective visibility? Why are some identities shielded while others are left naked in the street? That's not a crazy question. That's a fair question. And when you ask that question, a new possibility enters the room. What if this ain't just negligence? What if this ain't just oversight? What if this is weaponized transparency, where you release information knowing full well how the internet works, knowing full well how the blogs were running, and you let it happen? You don't have to accuse him. You don't have to charge him. You just have to let his name sit there unprotected and watch the machine do the rest. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a media reality, because reputation damage today don't require proof. It just requires association. And when you a billionaire, when you as powerful as JayZ, you don't make a lot of friends. You make a lot of enemies. Political enemies, business enemies, industry enemies, quiet enemies. And if somebody wanted to smear your name without saying a word, this would be the perfect way to do it. You don't say he did anything. You just don't protect him. You let the internet finish the job. And by the time the truth catches up, nobody cares, because the damage is already done. That's why this part matters, because this ain't just about what's in the files. It's about how the files were presented. Who was shielded? Who wasn't? Who was deemed worth protecting and who wasn't? And that opens a very uncomfortable door. Not about guilt, but about intent. Intent to inform or intent to expose. Because if you can blur one name, you can blur them all. But they didn't. And that decision is what makes me question everything. This is why you have to be careful with how you read a story. Because it's not just about what's being written. It's about what was allowed to be seen. And in today's world, what's allowed to be seen becomes what people believe, whether it's true or not. So now you understand why this is dangerous. Not because of what JayZ or Pusha T did, but because of what a headline can do to a name, what a viral post can do to a legacy. This is the era we live in, where raw data can become a public sentence, where being mentioned can feel like being convicted, and where context is the first thing to die. So before anybody jumps to conclusions, we got to slow this thing down. You have to separate information from implication, because if you don't, the same thing could happen to anybody, including you. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.